Hey everyone, today I want to talk about the easy way to extreme discipline. I know that sounds messed up, but it's more simple than you may actually think. Let's be real, the word discipline doesn't exactly scream fun, right? It conjures up images of military drills or boring routines or saying no to dessert. Yikes, right? But here's a twist. Extreme discipline doesn't have to feel like punishment at all. And in fact, it can be ridiculously simple, dare I say, maybe even enjoyable, if you approach it in the right way. So stick with me as we uncover some surprisingly easy paths to becoming disciplined ninjas. And it's less about forcing yourself to grind and more about taking your time and effortlessly creating consistency. So there's a big myth to willpower, I think. You've been maybe doing it wrong. I've been doing it wrong for many years. But let's clear up the big misconception. Discipline isn't about raw willpower. Shocking, right? Willpower is like a phone battery. It drains so fast. And research from the American Psychological Association shows that willpower is a finite resource, and relying on it alone is a recipe for burnout, probably the number one recipe for burnout. So if willpower, if that's something that's not going to cut it, then what will? What will is systems. So discipline is less about self-control and more about self-design. So when you create environments or habits or routines that work specifically for you, discipline becomes just automatic. You are making progress and not having to even think about it. So I've created some systems, a routine of splitting my days into 4 quarters. My first quarter, I wake up at 4 a.m. I know that's crazy. Not saying you have to wake up at 4 a.m., but it's what I do. And I work out, I pray, I write, I create content, I do some deep work and deep thinking. And that's really my prime time of the day. I just do it. I don't get caught up in thinking about that I'm tired or that I just don't feel like getting my day going. I just get going. Especially working out. I just do it. If I don't think about it, if I got in the sense of really focusing on my emotional state of not wanting to do it, then I would talk myself out of it every single day. So when you set your life up with a plan and stick to the script, you stop thinking about how you feel and your emotions behind it. You just do it and you get it done. So schedule everything, including sleep and including fun. Even if you need to put an alarm on your phone to remind you, do what you need to do to stay on schedule. I know that sounds boring, but it really does work. It's a little effort that can really go a long way. So let's talk about a few steps that I have used that keep me on track, and they might help you as well. The first step is tiny habits equal big results. So you don't need to overhaul your life overnight to achieve extreme discipline. Start small, so small that maybe it feels laughable. Take it from Stanford researcher DJ Fogg, who found that building habits works best when you start really tiny. So want to exercise daily? Begin with maybe 1 push-up. Yes, 1. It's not about the push-up itself. It's about proving to yourself that you're the kind of person that you can show up for yourself. So a tip here can be pair a new habit with an existing one. So for example, after brushing your teeth, do that push-up. Or after, pouring your coffee, write down that one thing you're grateful for. So start small. This technique is called habit stacking. So it creates this effortless consistency. So if you add one little tiny piece to the day, you're moving forward in a small way. Step 2 is automating the hard stuff. So let's get all of the thought process out of the way. So discipline becomes easier when you remove all of that decision fatigue. I know sometimes I have a hard time making a decision at times, and it drives me crazy. But studies show that adults make around 35,000. Yes, you heard that right. 35,000 decisions per day. And every choice drains your mental energy, right? I mean, how many times have you had some big things going on in your life and you just feel so exhausted from it? So do you want to conserve that energy for some things that really matter? Automate everything you can. So set up routines. Wear the same maybe style of clothes like Steve Jobs, or plan for meals for the week. I totally do this one. I wear very similar clothes each day, and it just makes it easy. I just look at what I feel best in, most confident in, and I just go there. So I know that sounds boring, but it saves a ton of time. It saves also money because you're not buying all these different outfits, and your sanity in trying to figure out what to wear or even what to make for nourishment. So I go with what makes my body feel best and what makes me feel the most confident. And use tools, if that helps you. So apps like Notion or even a good old-fashioned calendar can keep you on track without having to overthink things. I've put together a spreadsheet with weekly tabs to keep myself on track. And this is where I place my 1 to 3 key tasks that I want to get done per day. And, I really focus there on what do I need to get accomplished and how do I, take those specific tasks and put them into my calendar each day. So you might want to also limit temptation. So if you don't want to eat junk food, don't buy it in the first place. I only buy the items that I eat every single day, and I know the foods that work for me, and I only buy those items. I know I'm addicted to sugar. I'm guilty of that, and I've had to overcome that. So it's really hard for me to even have it in the house. So I've eliminated that from my life, but it's a tough one for me. And I'm sure maybe some of you can relate with either sugar or alcohol or snacks or some other things that you really crave that are just not the best for you. So when I'm shopping, although I'm often tempted, I basically tell myself no like a little kid, and I just keep walking, and I just get to the cash register as soon as possible to just get out of there before I change my mind. So if it doesn't go home with me, then I can overcome anything. Once it's in my possession and in my cabinet, it's a trigger. It's a big trigger. And I have a tough time fighting it. So I just say no and I walk out. But by climbing unnecessary decisions, you can have more energy to focus on your goals. So eliminate those things that are really not in your best interest, and climb that mountain to success by just not having those types of things present when you might really lose your cool. Step 3 is the 80-20 rule of discipline. So did you know that 80% of the results come from 20% of your effort? This is called the Pareto principle, as many of you know, in action. And it's a game changer for discipline. Really, if you look at anything, 80% of something comes from 20% of your work half the time. So identify a handful of habits maybe that give you the best and biggest return on investment. So for example, in fitness, maybe focus on some compound exercises like squats or deadlifts instead of doing endless bicep curls. Not that they're not important, but if you're looking at time and you're looking at focus, go with where you get the most bang for your buck. In productivity, spend your best energy maybe on deep work, not on busy work. I'll tell you, and I'm not sure if you agree with me, but busy work is your enemy. Although you're checking the box on all these things, it's just busy work. It's not really getting you towards your goals and to what you really need to do that's important. So when you zero in on the habits that really move the needle, discipline feels less overwhelming. And step number 4 is reward yourself. Yeah, really. I really believe in that. If you don't reward yourself, it makes it so much harder. So contrary to popular belief, discipline isn't always being this joyless robot. Rewarding yourself is actually a critical part of staying consistent. Why? Because rewards create positive reinforcement. Neuroscience shows that dopamine spikes when you anticipate a reward, and it makes you more likely to do it and to have that repeat behavior over and over. So here's how to make rewards maybe work for you. Set up some micro rewards. Maybe after finishing a task, give yourself a 5-minute break, or maybe enjoy a treat. Maybe do a macro reward. So if you hit a big milestone, treat yourself with something meaningful. Like if you enjoy going to the spa, go to the spa for a day, or go to a fancy dinner, or go get a massage. Do something that you really enjoy to give yourself that reward for your efforts. And step number 5, embrace the boring days. I mean, sometimes I love boring because there's so much going on in our lives, right? And when we don't have anything that's like making us anxious or crazy, or something that we are running towards with all this anxiety, it's sometimes a joy. But let's face it, some days discipline feels like, you just feel like, oh, why am I so disciplined? You're just not motivated. The task feels like dull, and it's just not tempting at all. And you're just really dragging, and you start to like really get into your emotions. So discipline is about showing up, especially when it's boring and especially when it's hard, when you're having a hard day. That's when discipline means the most. So elite performers know this. And like NBA superstar Kobe Bryant once said, I didn't get bored with the basics. So whether it's shooting free throws, or practicing, scales on the piano, or, just keeping in line with the way that you are getting your nutrition, the certain types of foods you're eating, mastery comes from embracing repetition. So here's a mental trick. Instead of thinking, I have to do this, switch to, I get to do this. Reframing tasks as being more optimistic can even make the most mundane, boring tasks feel a little bit more memorable, right? So this can also come back to that grateful heart, right? When you're grateful for what you have, you can kind of reframe things more in that light. So let's hit the pause and look at some surprising statistics about discipline. So 92% of people fail to keep their New Year's resolutions. I'm not shocked by that, because I hear that all the time. And that's according to a University of Scranton study. The problem is they focus on the goal instead of on the system. So once again, it comes down to system. Also, another statistic is people with high self-discipline are 24% happier because they focus on long-term rewards. And this comes from the Journal of Personality. And a third statistic is habits account for 45% of our daily actions, meaning that they're a huge part of whether we succeed or we fail. And that study came from Duke University. So very interesting statistics there when it comes to discipline. The secret sauce is identity-based discipline. So here's where the magic happens. Instead of focusing on what you want to do, focus on who do you want to become. James Clear, who's the author of Atomic Habits, explains it this way. Don't say, I want to run a marathon. Say, I am a runner. Don't say, I want to save money. Say, I am financially responsible. So make yourself that person that you want to be. When your actions align to your identity, discipline feels effortless because it's simply who you are. So you become who you are when you act that way. So some final thoughts here is extreme discipline isn't about gritting your teeth and grinding and powering through life. It's about making small intentional changes that add up over time. You can design systems, not goals. Start small and celebrate often. Embrace boring days as part of the process. And remember, discipline isn't a punishment at all. It's a gift that you can give to your future self. So what small step will you take today? let me know in the comments. I'd love to cheer you on. So if you found this content valuable, please consider subscribing, and I will see you on the next video.